I am one of the local families around here. We live 17 k's out of town towards Goolagong. On the Monday morning, my husband had been in to look at the floods, and he came back and then went to have to go to Goolagong. And my sister-in-law is a community nurse here, and she had phone calls from her patients that they were already sitting on tables, and then we lost all communication and the water was still rising. So she was really worried, and we couldn't get in initially because of our creek up. So then we could get in and jumped in the fire truck because we'd heard that the fire truck here was stuck, and we had a taller fire truck to help get through the water to help with the rescue. So no crew could get into the fire truck, so it was our family and my sister-in-law and her 2 kids, and we just jumped in and came in to see what we could do.
Have you had fire truck experience before?
No. No, but there weren't many options because no one could get through because the Lachlan was flooding on our end. So we're North Barangaroo Fire Brigade. My husband's involved in that. And then this was flooding. The Mandurah was flooding and everything was flooding. No one could get to us to get into the fire truck, or people were away like RFS. So it was just a case of let's just go in and see. So we took 2 utes, a boat, and the utes had snorkels in case we got stuck, and the big tall fire truck. So we just had to get in here, and the devastation was unbelievable. And so 2 weeks later we were all still very involved because we just needed, our family helped provide that local consistency. We weren't flooded, we had our cars, but the devastation was unbelievable, and the locals needed some consistency of support, so we just helped with that because the government stuff has been amazing, but it's all quite slow, and then it all changes at times. So it's evacuation, and then it's recovery, and it's search and rescue, and then it's not, and then it's clean up, and so it's quite difficult to work it out where things are happening from that level. So our concentration was just really on the locals and providing them that support that they needed because it was so traumatic. And the rescues were amazing from some of the young people in town and older people that just saved so many lives. Unfortunately, we did lose the two lives in town, which was just not good. But it was just incredible in terms of what they did already. So yeah, we just got in and helped with that.
We're standing here in the kitchen of the showground. I've seen you here. I've seen you in the middle of a house cleaning with a bucket. You've kind of been everywhere. And it's Sunday. So what are you trying to achieve?
I suppose it's that local connection really, more than anything else, because we haven't been directly affected, and I was actually I started 2 hours of a new job on that Monday, so I had to ring up and say I'm not going because the need was much, much greater here. So it was that local connection, particularly after hours. There wasn't the support that everyone needed. Once we got some of the people out with buses to evacuation centres in Orange, and then we had the pavilion was set up as an evacuation centre, so up until even 11 days post there were people staying in that. So at night time, when people had finished doing stuff with their houses or whatever was happening, they'd come in here to the kitchen. So we've tried to set up that as homely as possible, made the evacuation the pavilion a really safe local zone. And the first week it was really cold, so we had the fire going, and it was just that social, giving people that opportunity to tell some stories and debrief and just provide that local support. So that's really what we did. So then because it changes from evacuation to then recovery, so then we can't house them in here. So what does that then look like? So we've just been supporting that, and then as well as that, we have had thousands of donations of every single thing that we could ever imagine that we might want, and lots of things we might not want, and that's created like a whole nother the Give It lady calls it well-intentioned disruption, and it's created a huge big issue, which is, it's great that people want to donate, but we really can't accept any more donations, and we're really just trying to promote the Give It or the cash cards, because people don't have houses, so they can't use the stuff that's been donated, and there's nowhere to store it. So that's been a really interesting issue. So Rachel's been great because they've been helping us in the last 2 weeks. We needed some succession planning, and it's been great that they've been doing that. But prior to that, it was really, and of course, a lot of the locals are affected. So you can't, and even we've had some amazing people on the show committee here that their houses have flooded away or they've been completely flooded, but they've been here every day, tirelessly working on every single aspect of the disaster management, as well as the government. People from Resilience New South Wales have been great. So it's just that coordination and really keeping it steady for the locals. So that was really where we worked from the ground up. So in the initial phase, the first, probably one of the hardest things for everyone was we lost Telstra. And so even if people were rescued or saved, they couldn't actually, no one could contact them. And so if we needed medications for someone, I'd have to drive up, we'd have to drive through all the carnage up to our local little multi-purpose service, find my sister-in-law, the community nurse, and go, what's this person on? Because there was no communication at all. So that was really hard for 2 days and really hard for people. We didn't have we didn't have great lists. There was locals in the evacuation centre that were trying to look at who was missing still. We didn't have a great list of who was rescued in the morning. Like there were cases where they'd go searching for someone thinking they might not have been rescued, but they'd been rescued by helicopter. The helicopters were amazing. There were 12 of them, 11 circling as far as I know, and one up higher doing the control work. They were incredible. And the RFS in terms of their coordination was amazing, but the communication between all three, from my angle, just sitting in the fire truck or being out in the water trying to actually work out if someone's in a house, was really tricky. And that was probably the same for the next few days. It's really chaotic. You don't have some person fly in and coordinate everyone, which you kind of assume happens, but it doesn't. So it's a lot of local knowledge in that initial phase, then with help for particular things. And if they don't use that local knowledge, it's really hard because we're all not on the same page. So communication is such a major issue, like it is in most things, in health complaints and in lots of things. So that was really challenging.
Did some leadership or coordination sort of rise up by default from a grassroots like yourself and others? Yeah, sure. But you can't be all over everything. And if you, at the end of the day, it's whoever is the controlling at the top is doing the control work around where the searching is or the evacuation is, or the evacuation people are housed, and the food that comes with that. Like on the Wednesday, I have a red hat on because everyone knows me in the red hat, because we had great food relief for everyone in town straight away. It was fabulous, but there was nothing on the Wednesday morning. So we had several thousand people in town with no shop, no one to feed anyone. So we were racing around trying to get 600 sausages, making sandwiches. And so I became the go-to person, the girl with the red hat. So I just kept the red hat on because it's easier. And then the council starts getting involved. And you're just coordinating all of that sort of stuff. But again, it's always for us is about keeping the consistency for the locals. My husband's got a lot of local knowledge. We've been in the area for 120 years or something ridiculous, and I'm very involved with the town, even though we don't live in town. So he knows who to ask and who to talk to, and obviously fairly heavily involved with the RFS. The reason we didn't lose so many people, one, it didn't happen at night. There were amazing people that did incredible things in that morning and everyone knows the benefit of being in a small town is they know what seniors live in there or vulnerable people live in what community, what housing. So they'll go, right, have you checked such and such and stuff? And then the helicopters were getting people out, and then the SEOs will come in and do a more methodical search, at some point to make sure everyone's accounted for. But we were still missing 2 people that we knew of, possibly 3, which wasn't a correct thing. So it's just no one's really, and it would be great to just brief the locals more where we're at, where the search is at, because everyone's so stressed and so traumatised. But yeah, they were amazing. Between the helicopters and those guys in town that you've probably heard lots of stories about, they were just incredible. And they know each other and they know who we were looking for. Yeah, but even little things like, you get told, the gentleman that
was missing. We were told he'd been helicoptered out, but he hadn't. So, we checked his house. We went after dark and checked his house. And, so that sort of stuff needs to be really looked at, I think. But again, I think that sort of stuff will come out in the debrief. And who do you talk to? Because it changes all the time. Yeah. This is going to be 2 years. It's like the Northern Rivers. It's just such big floods and such big effects when you've lost houses and you've lost everything in it. Yeah, we've been trying to organise a community clean-up as well. But again, all the farmers are getting ready for harvest, and it's really hard to do that on private land, and because so much stuff is down the creek. So we've got a little stash of stuff that we've gone and found with some people helping, and we bring it back. So someone 3 kilometres away got her wakeboards back, so and there's little things like that, or the horse rugs, or a chest of stuff that, or photos we found, because we actually walked the creek, my daughter and I, that Tuesday night. The Monday was the flood, and we found so many photos and personal effects that we just went, we have to do something to save these. Because if you've got nothing, a muddy photo is precious. Wow. But yeah, there's some great stories, and it's been a really interesting. I will say that the development, the change in people. The first week was just traumatic and everyone upset, and that local support was really, really important. And then the second week is people are starting to go okay, and then the third week you're starting to deal with insurance companies if you're lucky enough to have had insurance. So then it's this roller coaster of emotions that every disaster, I'm sure, goes through. But from a supportive point of view, we've had amazing support. It's just probably some of the after hours stuff that's tricky. Because we are very lucky in Australia. We do get amazing support with all of our services that are so quick to come in, do the rescue searches. It's incredible. You don't get that in many places, and we're very thankful for that. But that's that emotional support of having people that know the locals, and that can't happen overnight anyway. So we're still helping some of the more vulnerable members of the community with house cleans-ups and things that haven't been done, and just trying to support any locals in any way to help them get through without too much long-term trauma, because that's what we would really like to avoid. Eugowra needs to keep going. And there's been incredible people, and we just need to support them in whatever way we can. So I'm back at work, but just try and fit this in around it.
Give us a snapshot of what community organisations or individuals are here now responding. And if people want to engage in providing assistance from outside the area, what's the best way to do that?
So in terms of the locals, so the show president, Kim Stories, that we've got some amazing locals that are doing lots of things. So the Visit Eugowra page is if they want to actually come and do things. We're desperate for any tradespeople out there. So if they want to donate or to give their time, they can do that. Council has been really good in terms of being here, because it's not evacuation centre, it's not recovery centre, and then it goes back to council. So they now are providing the ongoing support, even though there are things like the caravans and through Camplify, through Resilience New South Wales are here. It's really council that's looking at the day-to-day coordination of what happens, which apparently is quite normal in that next phase. So they've been good. It's just that manpower on the ground and finding tradies that's a real challenge for us now, because everyone's starting to get bits and pieces fixed, but that's not there. So the Recovery Access Centre has been great. So we've got the big top, or the wedding tent out the back of the pavilion, and that's got everyone. So you register with Service New South Wales, which entitles you to any grants. Unfortunately, the small household grants haven't been released yet, but hopefully that will happen for everyone. And the salvos are there, Lifeline, everyone that needs to be involved at that level is there to actually be on site talking people through it. Because remember, they haven't got cars, most of them, that have been really affected. Their cars all got washed away, or they don't work, or they're staying out of town. But it's so great to have them here So we've got all the caravans and people are staying here until, if they can't get the caravan on site, they're all starting to arrive now. So what is it, 3 weeks post, which is great. So up to 6 months from Resilience New South Wales, which is fabulous, the government. And then the access tent will be here for another few days, and it's been here for full-time for 2 weeks, weekdays, which is great.
And what's happening out here? All the clothes and different pieces.
So,
and the food.
So the food and clothes, so all the donations really. There's a great big store. We call it the locals are calling this place the shed, and the store is the store. There's rows and rows of clothes and all sorts of donations that has been set up, and now thank goodness Rotary is taking that on because it's just a huge job. There's also donations in Orange that have to be sorted. There's several sheds out here that have still got donations in it. So that's one part, and then it's providing, because there's now no supermarket, butcher, hairdresser, fuel station, anything in town, and Forbes is 40 something k's away. It's just not easy to go and get 2 litres of milk. So there's now fridges out there. They supply milk and the fresh stuff if people do want to start cooking. Or there's a lot of donated meals that people can come, if they've been working cleaning up their places, they can actually come and grab a meal. And there's also has been a food van just until recently, so nearly 3 weeks worth of some sort of food provision. And that's one other thing we're looking at now with donations is great, but then how do we support the local suppliers? And how do we get our businesses back without, so they can still sell what they need to sell because it hasn't all been donated. So we're really trying to work our way around through that.